Has anyone ever noticed how the romantic relationships in Community never went anywhere? Granted, romantic relationships were not the central focus of the show, it was more about the friendships. But there were some romantic relationships that had potential which was just wasted, and other romantic relationships which should have never been an idea in the writers' heads. You're welcome to Mind and More, where we talk about anything that comes to mind and more. Today, I'm frustrated with the relationships in Community, and I have a few things to get off my chest. The first thing that bothers me is that Jeff and Britta should have gotten together. Now hear me out, this isn't because they were a good pairing. They actually brought out the worst in each other. But I wanted them to have a real relationship because the very first episode of the show sets them up to be a will they, won't they pairing. Similar to how the first episode of Friends sets up Ross and Rachel. So in my mind, I thought they would have ended up together similar to Ross and Rachel. In fact, the study group and the friendship between the members starts because Jeff is trying to get with Britta. What was the point of doing all that if nothing meaningful was ever going to happen between Jeff and Britta? If they had decided that they were never going to have a relationship, then when Jeff got together with his teacher Michelle in season 1, that should have been the end of the Jeff and Britta storyline. They should have never done any of the hooking up, the random hookups. They should have just become truly platonic friends. Speaking of Michelle, the teacher, she had really good banter with Jeff, and I think she was the best match for him out of all the ladies.
Cup of coffee with me? I bet I can change your mind.
Oh, I know you can. That's why you're not getting the chance.
Secondly, Jeff and Annie. The Annie, Jeff, will they, won't they thing was weird, and the show could have done without it. When they first met, Annie is 18 and Jeff is in his mid-30s, nearly twice Annie's age. Do I need to say more? Next up, Troy and Britta. So much wasted potential here. Yes, the age gap is also a little weird, but it's better because they were both in their 20s, unlike mid-30s Jeff and teenager Annie. Anyway, there was a build-up here. They first start to have storylines outside the group when they discover they were both secretly taking dance classes together in season 1, episode 14. In this episode, Britta freezes up as she's dancing on stage, and Troy comes to the rescue. In season 2, you can visibly see Troy start to develop a crush on Britta, which she kind of starts to reciprocate in the episode where they take a film class together. Britta shows Troy compassion when he reveals during class that his uncle was inappropriate with him as a child, which turned out to be a lie, but anyway, my point is there were several instances where these two showed up for each other. They seemed to genuinely like each other. It could have been something real. But again, the writers just decided to go back on this one. When they finally start dating, they just break up for no good reason. Still on the topic of Troy, Annie and Troy could have worked as well. Annie really liked Troy in season 1. This clip says it all.
That totally ignored the only people that truly liked him for non-superficial reasons, but weren't allowed to say anything because their parents are bigots.
Huh?
I wish Troy hadn't been oblivious to Annie's feelings for him. It would have been cute to see the jock who accepted his nerdier side get together with the overachiever who learned to relax a little. If Troy and Britta couldn't get together, Troy and Annie would have been alright as well. Plus, bonus point for them being an age-appropriate pairing. Now let's talk about a couple that makes my blood boil. Shirley and good for nothing but causing chaos, Andre Bennett. I cannot stand this man, and thinking about this couple gives me genuine stress. At the start of the show, Shirley has just split from Andre and she's at Greendale to start a new life, which she does successfully. She gets back out there and makes new friends. So tell me why this guy had to come back. If he was cold enough to leave his family in the dust, he should have stayed gone. I don't care how much you realize your mistakes or reform, keep your distance. This is the story. Andre cheated on Shirley and left her, abandoning his kids in the process. Then he asked for his ring back from Shirley so he could marry his mistress. I mean, come on. Then when he feels that he's had his fun, he comes back and starts hooking up with Shirley. She gets pregnant with a baby who we aren't sure if the father is him or if it's Chang. He pretends to be the hero, saying that he'll raise the baby no matter who the father is, even though they only ended up in that situation because he'd left. The baby turns out to be his. Him and Shirley get remarried before they eventually split again, and this time he takes the kids with him. Again, what was the point of this hot mess? Why couldn't Shirley's ex just stay gone the first time around? The guy was fake, he was a cheater, and he couldn't stay put. Every time this guy showed up, it was to destabilize Shirley's life. The only thing this Andre character had going for him was that he was played by Malcolm Jamal Warner, who was one of the Huxtable kids. That's it. Whew, I need a glass of water every time I talk about this guy. I swear I get so worked up. Speaking of Shirley, am I the only one who wanted her baby to be Chang's? Yes, Chang was insane, and he grossed Shirley out. But I think their co-parenting relationship would have been hilarious. Also, Chang actually does try to get his acts together a little bit when he thinks he's going to be a father, albeit in a misguided way and in just one episode, and he ends up committing a crime. But he starts dressing up and talking different, and it's kind of sweet to see him try. He also did a great job helping Shirley deliver the baby. Baby Ben should have been his. Justice for Chang. Now back to more serious business. This next relationship isn't romantic, but I just decided to put it here because I just had to talk about it. Troy and Pierce. At the start of the show, these two were so much closer, and I loved it. There's something so funny about pairing as best friends a young black jock with a rich old white guy who says racist things. It's such an unlikely friendship, and that's what makes it comedy gold. Don't get me wrong, I also truly love Abed and Troy's bromance. Loved it. But I wish they'd pursued Pierce and Troy's friendship more as well. I think Pierce could have grown a lot more from it. I just remembered the Halloween party where Pierce took Starburn's pills and was tripping, and he mentioned something along the lines of how he felt it was a milestone now having an African American friend. Pierce is actually terrible, but they made good friends with Troy. Troy did end up living in Pierce's mansion briefly, but Abed and Troy completely overshadowed Troy and Pierce, and they deserve to do so, but a little more Troy and Pierce wouldn't have hurt. Still on Pierce, does anyone remember the episode where both Pierce and Jeff take an Italian wine tasting class and they meet this girl, Wu Mei? Jeff tried to get with her, but she chose Pierce over him. They quickly got engaged, Pierce and Wu Mei, but didn't end up getting married because Jeff foiled Wu Mei's plan to take down Hawthorne Wipes in China, which is the whole reason why she wanted to marry Pierce. I think they should have let Pierce be with her. After all, he said he didn't mind being used because he was also using her. They also had so much in common. Jeff said it best.
You're both rude, you're both deceitful and racist, and you both come from moist white dynasties. I think having that much in common justifies at least one real date.
Pierce didn't have a spouse or kids, and they also made him an outsider in the group. They should have let him live the rest of his life happily with Wu Mei and had Troy be one of his best friends. Justice for Pierce. In summary, if romantic relationships had been more of a priority, which they didn't need to be, because Community was already awesome without all that. But if they had been, Jeff would have ended up with his teacher from season 1, Michelle, and Troy with Britta or Annie. If Troy had ended up with Annie, Britta could have been with Subway. Do y'all remember Subway? Epic. Shirley would have never gotten back together with no good Andre. Pierce would have been closer friends with Troy, and he would have married Red Dragon Wu Mei. In another life, it would have been so interesting to see all this. But nevertheless, the Community we got was still a masterpiece.